income per capita. There is some disconnect there. And so I was saying to these young graduating friends of mine at the University of Nigeria, my alma mater, that it is time for them to make a different set of choices. That they needed to make the choices that would enable them move beyond the traps of oil well. Oil economy has not been beneficial. It has been mismanaged over the decades of our existence. And so that they needed to make knowledge, education, they needed to make technology, they needed to get a sense of manufacturing, of structural change of the economy as their own philosophy for economic development. That's what it was about. Now, the issue of the reserve, as far as it concerned, the handover from President Obasanjo to the government that came after him was just a part of that whole bigger, broader story that was completely administration neutral. In fact, if anybody was going to take on me, all the administrations would have to take on me. The 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s, which included the time that we also were in government. So anybody could take on me for that speech. But it was a speech for life-changing kind of mentoring of young people who would have to lead this country even right now. So here is the issue. In my speech, I talked about the reserves that were handed over. And I said, that this reserve has been squandered. And that the reserve was 45 billion. And I said that the excess crude account was 22 billion. Now, that statement is quite factual. All you need to do is to even Google the officials of state and see what they say about the excess crude over the years. To know the extent of the excess crude that they in government have spoken about as being what was handed over the administration that came after us. When I talked about the foreign reserve, the foreign reserve is a composite figure. The foreign reserve is the sum total of the foreign receipts, the foreign exchange that a country has, and it's held by the central bank. And so the foreign reserve is the sum total that includes everything. I said the foreign reserve was 45 billion. I said the excess crude account was 22. These are inclusive. And so there was no basis for the kind of abusive language that issued from government. I wasn't picking on the government. I was pointing out the fact that clearly there are challenges, because if that foreign reserve was 45 billion at the time we were leaving government, about nearly going to 6 years now, and subsequently after we left government, oil prices have in fact doubled from the levels they were when we were in government. Remember that the foreign reserve was accumulated from just about $5 billion to the 45 billion that was left behind. And I simply said, in a period, 6 years, other than in 2009, when price of oil fell briefly, if oil prices doubled, how come we haven't accumulated double the reserve that we have? This is a factual issue. And so it's the kind of thing that should make us sit back and say, what exactly is the issue here? What do we need to do in order to change what we see on the table? It shouldn't be a basis for, you can disagree with me, but don't be disagreeable. There was absolutely no need for the kind of language that was used. In a democracy, a demand for democratic accountability is the right of every citizen. And anyone who says that simply because I served in government, I have no right to demand for accountability is basically saying that we have no democracy. And I don't think that that's proper. I believe that the voice of citizens are important. I will never be a mischief maker. I am not a politician. Nobody knows me to be a politician in this country. I have no such interest. I haven't participated even when I was in government. I was simply a technocrat who was doing my work. And for people who don't know that for many years I have been on this issue of accountability, why do you think I led the work in the public procurement reform? It's so important. a lot of the vulnerability to public resources happens within public procurement. I worked with a team to make that reform happen in this country. The oil sector transparency, I did that work with a team to bring to. We were the first country that implemented an extractive industries transparency initiative. So, my accountability credentials are not in question. Globally, I'm one of the founders of Transparency International. You shouldn't expect anything less from me on the issues of good governance, transparency, and accountability. So I hope that answers your question.
We'll have to let it go there. Thank you very much indeed. We'll go on and on, but Dr. Ezekwesili is the former Minister of Education, co-founder, Transparency International, and also a chartered accountant. Thank you for speaking with us today on Sunrise Daily. All right, then, so there you have that. Well, back in just a moment here. You could keep your questions and comments coming through anyway. Okay, comment if you will, because it's gone now. Join us again.
Bank, we see a great future, one that's full of opportunity for those who want to be the best. With over 1,000 branches of a single bank across 33 African countries, it's a future where trade can flourish without boundaries. The future is breathtaking, with enormous cross-border investments helping business and government build new infrastructure, while individuals achieve their ambitions right across Africa. The future is Pan-African, and EcoBank is the Pan-African bank. Standards